All right, this is the Grumpy Big Book Guy, and I'm back again. And yesterday I was talking about the forward to the first edition. And one of the things that we were talking about that I hear so often is this is a we program, and this is about togetherness. But one of the questions I always like to ask is, who is the we? Who are we? Who are the people that wrote this book? And here we see this right in the beginning again. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope no other authentication is necessary. And again, in 1939, there was no AA. This book comes out. And these guys have the audacity to say that we know how to recover from drinking. Now, I've heard it said that the Big Book is the AA Bible, and I don't think that's true. I think what the Big Book is actually a textbook. But it's a textbook written from experience. In other words, we did this, and this is how we did it. In other words, you don't really hear in the Big Book a lot of language that you should do this or you should do that. What you're going to hear is it's always written in the perspective of we. We did this, we did that, and we got this. And here they're saying we recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, and we're going to here to show other people how to do it. And this was written in 1939, and, well, the number one question is, does AA work? And how'd they do? And we could really easily see that by the second edition, the forward to the second edition. Figures given in this forward describe the fellowship as it was in 1955. So the second edition comes out in 1955. Since this original forward of this book was written in 1939, a wholesale miracle has taken place. Our earliest printings voiced of hope that every alcoholic who journeys to find the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous at his destination. Already the early text 2, 3s, and 5s have sprung up in other communities. In other words, this is what happened in 39. 39, they just had like 100 people. They started in 35. In 4 years, they managed to get 100 people to sober up, and they wrote this book. 16 years have elapsed between the first printing of this book and the presentation in 1955 of our second edition. In that brief space, Alcoholics Anonymous has mushroomed in nearly 6,000 groups whose membership was far above 150,000 recovered alcoholics, people who aren't drinking. Groups are to be found in each United States and all the provinces of Canada and AA, flourishing communities in the British Isles, Scandinavia, South Africa, blah, 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 blah. All told, promising beginnings have been made in some 50 foreign countries in U.S. possession. Some of these are now taking shape in Asia. Many of our friends encourage us by saying it is but a beginning, only the augury of a much larger future ahead. Not only did it work, did the writings in the Big Book help them stay sober, but in a very short period of time, with just writing a book and starting meetings, they were able to get dramatic results. And that's what it's about. You know, how are you doing? And that's what the book is about. Now we're going to go into a bit of a history of AA and how it was to come into life. And that spark was the flare in the first AA group that struck in Akron, Ohio in 1935 during a talk between a New York stockbroker and an AA physician. 6 months earlier, the broker had been relieved of his drink obsession by a sudden spiritual experience. Following a meeting with an alcoholic friend, he had been in contact with the Oxford groups of the day. He had been greatly helped by the late Dr. William D. Cirkwick, and a New York specialist in alcoholism, who was by account no less than a medical saint by AA members. And as a story in the early days of society appears in the next pages, from the doctor, the broker had learned the grave nature of alcoholism. Though he could not accept all the tenets of the Oxford group, he was convinced the need for moral inventory, confession of personal defects, restitution into those harmed, helpfulness to others, and necessity of the belief in a dependence upon God. Prior to his journey in Akron, the broker had worked hard with many alcoholics on the theory that only one alcoholic could help another alcoholic, but he succeeded in only keeping himself sober. The broker had gone to Akron on a business venture which had collapsed, leaving him greatly in fear that he might drink again. He suddenly realized that in order to save himself, he must carry this message to another alcoholic. That alcoholic turned out to be the Akron physician. The physician had repeatedly tried spiritual means to resolve his alcoholic dilemma, but had failed. But when the broker gave him Dr. Silkworth's description of alcoholism and its hopelessness, the physician began to pursue his spiritual remedy for his malady with a willingness he had never before been able to muster. And he sobered never to drink again in the moment of his death in 1950. This seemed to prove that one alcoholic could, let me try that again, I think I messed up there. This seemed to prove that one alcoholic could affect another as no alcoholic could. In other words, the experience of somebody that did it, that got sober and able to stay sober, could help someone else. And this idea of, let me show you how I did it, becomes the foundation of Alcoholics Anonymous. It becomes the foundation of the big book. And we see how this big book is now written. We're getting an idea of the language. We're getting an idea of how they explain this. And I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you how I did it. Okay, let's just take a simple idea. Okay, my life is unmanageable and I can't drink. And since I can't drink, and my life's so unmanageable, and I can't help it, but I'm going to tell you what to do, and I'm going to tell you how to fix your life. I personally would have a problem with that. Whereas, on the other hand, I'm sitting there saying, look, this is the problem I had, this is how this problem affected me, and this is how I got over that problem. Anybody that takes that tact, I'm probably going to be more willing to listen to. And now we're getting an idea very quickly how the big book is written. Now, I know a lot of people go to AA and they don't get that experience. They get a lot of people telling them what to do, telling them how to live their lives and how to change. Matter of fact, you can go out all over the world and anywhere, and people are going to tell you how to run your life, tell you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Rarely are you going to get a person saying, okay, this is what I did, this is how I fixed it, and this is how I solved it. Yesterday I used an example of going to a YouTube video and seeing somebody do something like clean their house, and was amazed because that house was really clean, and I was like, wow, I couldn't get my house this clean if I tried. But this lady started talking about how she cleaned her house, and I started listening. It's like, yeah. And she showed me how they did it. Now, if I could show you how I did this, or they showed this, and Bill showed Dr. Bob how he did it, that's how he stayed sober. And that's probably where I'm going to stop today. Again, the importance of this, I only going to go a little bit at a time, and that's how I go through the book. And again, I don't represent AA or anything like that. I am just somebody trying to study the big book, and I study it by teaching it. If you disagree with anything I said, go about it and let me know. If not, again, you want to criticize on anything I say, that's great too. As far as subscriptions and notifications, I wouldn't worry about those too much. That's not what this channel is about. Again, thank you very much.